Okay, let's see if this works. Yeah, it works. Okay, everyone has syllabus for the course. Congratulations, good morning. Actually, good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock, so. Let me see. So there is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18. Well, we're missing some people. We're about 2 people short. So maybe they'll come late. Maybe they're walking around lost and not knowing where the rooms are. Let me check to see if I'm correct. I have the list. That's of things. Yeah. Technically, there's 20 students in here. So we're missing a couple. Or they could be ghost students. That's always the possibility. Students who are registered for the program, signed for the thing, but never show up in class. The sign-up sheet is going around, so just sign your name. That's how I take attendance. I don't call people's name. It's kind of a silly thing because I don't want to slaughter your names. I will, half the names I'll slaughter, even though I've been here long enough. The syllabus is straightforward. The syllabus is straightforward. And everyone should have access to the campus course by now. Okay? In fact, I'll just check here, just check a second. See if anyone kind of dropped, last minute dropped. This week and next week are like the weeks everyone can, I say I don't want to be here or something. No changes. So the course is set up. We will have an here. Let me door, please. I know Polish custom is always shutting doors. The American custom is always keep doors open. Why? CYA, cover your ass. Always witnesses. Never shut a door because door means you're not transparent. You're trying to hide something. And I'm actually going to be a very good boy. I'm recording my class again this year. So I'm doing it for my own safety sake and also for the fact to have a record of it. And also in case someone is absent for a medical reason or something, they can catch it. The rule is, in fact, there are previous class recorded on the system. Okay, the previous class I did this about 2 years ago. I recorded it. I think we're still at the old building. And I was doing it through a really bad laptop, so the video quality was like so. But we got all these wonderful high-tech stuff we don't use well enough, so I said I might as well do it again. This is a course I like to teach regularly. It is a general course because honestly, you guys don't have enough. You're bachelor's degrees, most of you technically. Some of you may be in another program someplace, but you should mostly be 18 years old. But many of you aren't. Maybe some of you coming back to studies, okay, whatever. But the idea this is a freshman level course, right? Freshman level course. And I designed it for being a freshman level course, Introduction to Politics. Now, I know most of you already had Dr. Sklarski, right? Dr. Sklarski's things. And he taught American government, right? He taught American government. And you think, well, I should have enough that should be enough politics. No, actually, I joke about this. He should come after me. We should have this. We should have, but we're joking about this is that you should have general education requirements. In American universities, you do. But I'm told your matura means you're perfectly educated. Bullshit. That was true 30 years ago when only 20% of the population went to university, okay? So if you got the matura, you were basically in the top 20% of the society in terms of intelligence, education. Now, because of democracy, what happens is mass education democracy means, 60% or maybe even 70% of the school people, if you look at even other schools, the other things that are now calling itself higher education, right? 60% of the population is. So Okay, yeah, but the Matura ain't the Matura anymore. Most of you don't know things. In fact, in America, 4-year degrees. You have 4-year degrees. American bachelor's degree is a 4-year degree. Okay? And it's actually, you have more courses. Therefore, that's why the Polish licentiate doesn't get treated. People with Polish licenses, European licenses, except the English they'll treat, respect. And I think sometimes maybe even the Dutch. But the European so-called bachelor degree, mostly they won't accept it because you don't have enough credit hours. Okay? You have basically a year less of classes. And that's how the argument goes in that sense. So 1/4 of your undergraduate education in the American bachelor program is general education courses. What is general education courses? This would be like basic courses like economics. Okay, now economics, history, literature. You'd have, we also has writing. So you have writing course, right? Unlike the rest of the frigging university, which they should, honestly, because all my colleagues who are in political science department and sociology department always endlessly complain that their students can't write. Okay? Don't know how to write a paper. It's all these problems. And I argue it should be universal. But actually, it shouldn't be just 1 semester. It should be 3 semesters. That's how it is in America, 3 semesters. You get into a program, you go to a first week in school, you take an exam. A written essay exam that you have to write an essay exam. So thousands of students do this, and what they do is they have these big giant halls. If school is like Harvard, there'll be 20,000 students have to do it. They all have to do the writing exam. They have to submit it, and then it gets graded by a team of writing faculty. And there'll be a pool of 2 people that do it, and they'll look at it and they have a standard. What does it pass? If it's like this student doesn't need to write, you might be exempted from the writing program overall. Otherwise, you will be assessed on your essay. 2 or 3 people review it, and they'll assess you whether you need to be introduction, intermediate, or advanced writing. Okay, and you would be sent to your track of writing. Now, the argument is you're capable of doing this already because you're Matura. Well, we all know is not true. So we try to do this. We do it here, so that you have to do that. You should have 1 more course. And they don't let me. Doctor. I don't think he's even here anymore. He's here, but he's not. Dr. Chalmers tends to be the person supervising it. I wish I was supervising it, because if I was supervising it, I'm a Nazi on these things. I would basically, I would actually inspect the instructors to make sure that they're delivering, because no one likes to teach writing. It is the most boring thing in the world. So instead of teaching writing, they teach their subject. Okay? Teach writing. You need to be able to sit down, and every student needs to know how to do a paragraph, how to do a sentence, proper sentence, how to do workflow, when to cite, when not to cite, how to do references, how to do referencing properly. Okay. Now, this course is kind of like an introduction to politics course. This is a baby course. Now, I don't need a baby course. But you do. Because the problem here is not because you're not lack of education, it's because we live in a world where the meaning of words don't mean what you think they mean. My favorite term is democracy. Everyone thinks democracy is this wonderful, good, happy, dandy little thing of unicorns, pink flying unicorns, and everything's happy and wonderful. That democracy means minority rights. It means procedures of everyone tolerance and everything else and things like that. No, democracy only means the rule of the majority. Nothing more. Nothing more. Liberal democracy came to be understood as liberalism with a democratic face. But is that really democratic? Minority rights. Minority rights are not democratic. Why? Because if you give a minority a privilege or an extension, this is something that's different than the majority. Or that therefore the majority, can the majority say, we want this, but that the minority gets a veto, then who's really in charge? So therefore, in other words, what do we mean by politics? My God, in my department, we're a culture studies department mostly. I'm not a culture studies person. I'm a political scientist. Okay, my training is political science and intellectual history, with also actually even evolutionary biology. So I have a background in the sciences and particularly that. Also general humanities as well. So I've had a broad background. And my specialization, ironically, was classical texts. So I learned Greek and Hebrew and Latin, and so and the reason was, for a very odd reason, is that I was interested in Aristotle because he's the first biopolitician, the first person who studied political things in terms of biology and biodiversity. So that's why I'm doing this. Now, why do you need it? Because things like most of my colleagues are what we call cultural studies, and they're part of what we call the postmodern progressive position. Be it feminist, be it gender studies, be it whatever, even culture studies. And most of their political analysis, they don't want to teach literature, they want to teach politics. The problem is their understanding of politics comes from the lens of Gramsci. And they understand it all through the concept of hegemony. Okay. Well, the problem with this is, that confuses politics with something it ain't. Like the discussion of oh my God, what is the big thing that I know some of my colleagues complain about, younger colleagues? Oh, the patriarchy. Okay. Patriarchy means oppression. No, it doesn't. It means what? What does patriarchy mean?
A society dominated by men?
No, not dominated. No. In fact, this is the feminist line. Patriarchy means ruled, not dominated. That's good. What? Ruled. That the men are authoritative. Rule. Now, what does this mean? Rule means domination? Who benefits in a patriarchy? In the logic of patriarchy, who is supposed to benefit? Come on, just think about it. What? No, not men. Wrong. The motto of patriarchy is what? What is the motto of patriarchy? The father, the parent.
Also the child.
The child benefits. The father sacrifices. The father sacrifices, or the parents, we can say paternalism. What is the principle motivating this? Care or love. The Greek word would be, you could even take the Greek word storge, which is the lower or the higher Greek word caritas. That's the Latin caritas. But agape, love, which is a care for. That's one type of rule. Love. What's the other type of rule? Mastery. Mastery. Despotike, Greek word. Despotike. Despot. Mastery. This is what? The master to the slave. Who benefits in the master-slave relationship? Come on, common sense. Who benefits? Who gets the goodies? It ain't the slave. Come on. The master, right? Let us not shit each other and lie to each other. Who benefits? Look at the question of who benefits and why they benefit. So we have care, love, parental rule on one side as one type of rule, and mastery, which is what? Parental rule. By the way, is parental rule completely voluntary? Now, the children don't volunteer to be, or children don't willingly obey or live or become children of the parents. And okay, yes, you can say, well, we have abortion and therefore they can have choice, but parents usually don't have choice. They don't. I mean, they may have choice to whether to kill the child or not, right? To terminate the life or not, but they can't choose what child they have. Okay, so there's involuntary relationship, right? Mastery is not a voluntary relationship either, except for the master. The master can decide what slave they want. It's completely arbitrary from the point of view of the master's point of view, but the point of view of the slave, it's completely what? Involuntary, coerced. This is something we're going to be looking at, the different types of social relationships. What is politics? Is politics mastery or care, or is it both? Is it also the question? The problem in the modern world is, okay, we'll get to it week 2 about economics. What is economic activity? That is what? The exchange, the trade, right? What is the trade? I got something you want, you got something I want. Therefore, we have to both agree in order for it to happen. So it's what? Mutual benefit. It doesn't have to be, now remember, it has to be how each agent's perception of benefit. So I could think I could be screwing you, but as long as you think you're benefiting, and you can think you're screwing me, and the trade can happen still. It doesn't mean we love each other. It just means you may think I'm stupid and I'm giving it away, and I may think the same of you, right? But we still agreed. The agreement is that we agreed to a point where both positions are getting their utility or their benefit is being actualized. And if there's any force or deception, it's invalidated. So it's no longer, in other words, if I force you to take this, this is not. If I take it from you, this is coercion. If I force it on you, this is mastery. This is not economic activity. But who benefits? The parties involved benefit. Do they benefit equally? Not necessarily, but they're satisfied with the amount of benefit they have. Otherwise, they would not have agreed. Okay, so therefore there's consent. Now, what about the other? Is this politics? This is the problem too. A lot of modern thinking thinks this is politics. It's starting with Hobbes and onwards, the idea that that politics is about consent. And actually, the postmodern, all my colleagues who are radically postmoderns in their terms of their interest in they like Foucault or they like Gramsci or that, who all criticize liberalism because liberalism assumes this by showing that things aren't, human activity isn't perfectly voluntary, therefore it must be completely unjust, right? So liberalism is a lie because liberalism assumes that everything is reduced to economic activity. So these are the classic conundrums. So what is politics? Well, we're going to argue, I'm going to show you here, politics is a third kind of thing. It is similar to economics because what? It's a form of rule where the principal concept is citizenship. The citizen. And who is a citizen? One who shares in rule. See, the traditional conception is ruler and ruled, right? The ruler and ruled. The idea of the political assumes a third category. One who is both ruled, but also ruler. In other words, they are both ruling and ruled. They may not be holding office, but they will or can hold office. In other words, at first they have to be ruled. The idea of citizenship is first you must be ruled. You must know how to be ruled. Because someone who doesn't know how to be ruled, These are very dangerous people. People who have never been ruled and only ruled by their will, who don't know how to obey and how to follow the rules and just do what they want. These are never going to be people that will be good rulers. In fact, this is the definition of tyranny, you see, or anarchy in that sense. Everyone doing what their will. So we have another conundrum here in that sense. So this is why these concepts, what are the ideas? What is the origins of the political forms we live under? We live under the idea of the modern state. But is this the state? The state. But was this always the political form? No. It's a modern idea. It's a modern idea. It comes around the birth of, when we say modern, we mean around the 14th, 15th century, right? The birth of the modern. The birth of the modern sciences, the modern thinking, modern rationality. So we should look at what came before. What were the even the term society, my God, the term society is a bugbear. What does society mean? Actually, state and society are Siamese twins, born around the same time. They're both modern concepts. The older term was the thing that is common, a thing that is common, koinonia, a common thing, which Latins would translate into communitas, which we translate into community. But in modern English, we think society and community are what is the word? Not synonyms. We think they're synonyms. They're not. Conceptually, they're radically different concepts. If you look at the origins of both concepts, they're completely different. Because one, society finds its roots in the Latin word societas, which was the societas were business relationships. Contractual and voluntary. Rational, contractual, involuntary. Agreements between cities or agreements between partners. In fact, the first in Roman history, the Latin word for business relationship was a societas. Okay? Therefore, this is a construct of utility and agreement. But are people who live together, who born together, is this done completely on agreement? No, it's involved. So the problem is the human social relationship is a compound between the voluntary and the involuntary. And trust me, this is even worse. Sexual attraction and lust. No. Is this really voluntary? No. If you know your human biology and human evolution, you heard a thing called pheromones. And the fact that why are you attracted to certain, why do you feel sexual attraction to somebody? Well, that's because they have the genes you don't. Their pheromones are their signal. The pheromones are the chemical signature, and that your body is saying, your genes, you're saying, hey, I like those genes. Those are new, and if I get those in my set, I will be. Maybe they'll help me, right? This is why people feel attraction to each other. Now the problem with this is not enough, because this is the irony about lust or eros. Eros only the sexual desire is the desire for something you don't have. Once you get it, what happens? You have it. You don't need it anymore. Bye-bye. So how do families emerge? Friendships, concepts of friendships, associations, connections, human associations. Human associations are, yes, sexual, but also familiar. Familiar in terms of kinship relationships, but also friends, philia. That's another word. So we have the ability to form associations, and human beings are social. I'm using this word with quotation marks because the Greeks would say political animal. Man is a political animal. But if I say politically, oh my God, Therefore, the sociologists talk about man as a social animal. It means that human beings are communal animals. If you leave an individual all by himself, they will go insane. You ever see the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks? How does Tom Hanks not go insane?
He makes his friend out of a ball.
A Wilson ball becomes Wilson, right? And if you read stories of people who were imprisoned in the gulags and in isolation, actually, let's tell you something. Only very high intelligence persons can do that. They have the ability to constrain an artificial person in order to live it. But by doing that, if that becomes their reality, they become what? They risk becoming schizophrenic. So therefore, the danger, only an intelligent person with good character and good discipline, and mental discipline, intellectual discipline, can prevent them from becoming schizophrenic. Because otherwise, if you do that and create you create a world that's in your head, and that you succumb to it, and you can't distinguish that from the real, then you break down, you become schizophrenic. You won't be able to operate in the world. So, these are the realities of life. Now, for our course, there's a lot of reading. All of it is, everything is on campus. All the required reading, Come on, yeah, there it is. All of it. And, come on, baby, there it goes. Every week, you're assigned. Again, the reading is assigned, right here, right in the syllabus. And it's available on the week schedule. We will have an exam session on the exam session, because this semester we don't have 15 classes. And we'll make up one class. I have to arrange making up one class, because sometime in April, I am going to Budapest for a conference. So I think it's the 20th, it's that week. I have to remember that. I think it's the 24th, it's that week. It's like the third week of April, like that. So I will probably have to we'll make up that course. Probably I can usually make it up on a Thursday. If people can be here on a Thursday later, I can make it up here, or we can agree to another day. I will meet the course, and if you can't be there, it will be recorded so people can do it in that sense. Because I have a MA seminar right after in the same room, and that's not going to always meet, because second semester BA seminar people are going to be only coming in like every other week, so that's going to be so I'm going to have free time. I'll have an empty room that I am in right after this one. Therefore I can easily schedule it for that day. But otherwise, I can make a different schedule day for that. We'll arrange it then. By that time, it will probably be in the tools of politics and week later in the semester. Also, there's a final exam, a written final exam. Okay, it is no essays. This is a first year class, so no essays. I wasn't going to punish myself or anyone else to doing that with that, right? Because you haven't finished the writing class, and I didn't want, some of you are done the writing course, but. There's no point of doing an essay course at this level. Second thing is quizzes. I will give you quizzes. There'll be at least 10 quizzes, 8 to 10 quizzes. So trust me, I won't probably have a first quiz till at least the third or fourth week of class. And it will cover the material previous. So it won't cut. I'll tend to give the quiz. So come here on time. The first 10 minutes of the class will be dedicated to quiz. They're simple. The test format will be mostly simple things like maybe matching, true, false, and maybe fill in the blank. Where there'll be, or maybe if there's the worst part, maybe there'll be you have to write a sentence, but no more. And that's how the final exam will be also. There'll be true, false. There'll be 3 sections, fill in the blank. There'll be fill in the blank, matching true, false. Okay? So this is a objective test, scored like this. It's percentage based on the rules of percentage. Passing is, technically it's supposed to be 60% and above passing. That's the rule for the university for DST for the first year courses. Now for masters it should be 70, they say, but no one does that, I mean, everyone just gives 3, some classes, some lecture courses they will give 50. The big lectures, sometimes they'll pass at 50. They'll give a DST under 50. I know they do that, but that's been the rectorate has been complaining about this completely because I think they should increase it. But that's because the argument there is that our tests are tough. Well, whatever. But the rule is 60, and I don't want to get yelled at for breaking rules. Okay, I will follow the guide. I will obey rules. As a stranger in a country, even though I'm a long-term resident and married to a citizen, I always try to obey all the rules I can. Okay. The course requirements, again, is going to be that you read the material, so please check the reading. The reading goes in depth, okay? So therefore, it goes beyond. Yes, you'll be reading things that I won't always ask. The kind of things I'll ask you is always kind of more general and more basic knowledge, okay? You'll be asked about basic knowledge and things that I will have talked about. But the reading is there to basically build up your vocabulary and build up your knowledge of the material, okay? And the material is all, sometimes I would change some text, and sometimes one of the texts I probably would, I thought about dropping one text, but every time I think about dropping it, I said, no, but it's a good text. And Kenneth Minogue's test, The Very Short Introduction to Politics. It's a nice, it's a simple little book that is kind of like a general book. It's like this. I don't always agree with everything he says in it. I do have me in here, my book that I did for Washington University Press. That's in here only because it is the best thing I know to talk about certain things in terms of, and also explain complicated things in a very simple way. Like the text is actually a bestseller for Washington University Press, and the reason why, not in Poland, but in international orders. And this is the reason why, it was one of the reasons why the Washington University Press got invited to the Web of Science. I don't make any money about this book. I joke about this. They sell about globally 10,000, about 5,000 to 6,000 copies a year on that. So, and even that's only I know what I know about the book, and they still haven't paid me a zloty for. But that's at Washington University Press. This is a joke about that. If I was doing it. If I made this book myself at Hulu or something like that, I probably would have made a couple of $1,000, at least a 5 or 6, enough to buy a new car. Okay, but never mind. It didn't happen. So, and it's the price you pay for being a teacher. You don't get the only people who make money being a teacher for books is they make a textbook in America where students have to buy it, and the textbook is usually very expensive, and the teacher gets 40%, a 20% cut of the price of every book. So they get these. I knew a person. He's a teacher, and these textbooks sells about each semester about 5,000 copies. Okay, and for every book he gets $20. Okay. So he's a happy, he bought a boat. It's one of those jokes we have in academic. You get a lot of money from a book, you buy a boat, or you buy something nice, a car or something. He bought a boat. The joke about this is that this is the course. This is straightforward. So it's straightforward, straight there. Quizzes, if you're absent, you get, okay. The rule also is you get 4 unexcused absences. On your 4th unexcused absence, the guillotine, you fail the course, okay? I can be nice if you have a medical excuse. The rule is you still count an absence an absence, okay? So an absent counts as an absence, whether it's excused or not. But therefore, if you got 3 medical excuses and then your last one is unexcused, in other words, you have to use your unexcuses and things have to be managed properly. Okay, so don't try to manage this. Why? Is because the quizzes. The quizzes are going to be. It says here what it's. Does it say on the thing? Yeah, it's 40% of your grade. And the final exam is 60%. So if you blow the quizzes and get a very low score, at the end of the day you only get like a 30 or 40% or less because you didn't do any quizzes. And if you do, means you have to do very well in the final to pass the course. Okay. So the goal here is that you learn. In fact, trust me, the final exam will include questions from the quizzes. So you study the quizzes, you study the final exam. This is how all undergraduate freshman courses are kind of done in the US. So I know we don't do this here in Poland. We have different strategies, but I decided to do this for the purpose of how this is normally done. So I'll give you a taste of America in the American Studies program. So we're in 45 minutes, of course, so let me go do my PowerPoint. We talked about some of these things. What is rule? The nature of political activity is traditionally understood as people ruling. In fact, the Greek word for rule is an interesting one. It's arche. The archons. Many of you ever saw the original series Star Trek? They talk about the archons. Well, that's just, a lot of terms in science fiction and literature will use words that come from the Greek or Latin. If you know your etymology, you know the origins of words. Archon is a person who is derivative of the word arche. Now, arche in the Greek means literally, and it is a very interesting term. It is not only in its verb form, it can become this is where the concept to rule, right? But as a noun, it is what? The arche is a beginning point, the starting point. This is where our word axiom comes from. The beginning point, the axiom. The term also is in terms in metaphysics. It's the beginning point, or the point that is that by which everything comes out of, right? That's the axiom, right? The starts of beginning. In terms of a beginning point, an arche is also a point in time, the beginning point of something. So the idea from rule is both a beginning, a concept of beginning, but also a concept of authority. The word for this is the kind of ruling. They have another word. What's it? Kleros. This is the one who rules, one who has authority. We use the word authority. This means what? Now we have a word power. We love this word. Everyone knows the word power. The Greek word for power will be doulos, to do, action. Power means literally, power comes originally from action, doing things, science. It is our ability to act. Our power is to do things. Arms, legs, our ability to do, act, physically act, move. Then our actions. Then our activities. Then our ability to change things, make things, our ability to change things, force things. This is the ability of power, right? This is to make, change, or do. We want things, and we get things, right? Power is our ability to get what we want. Get the things, or get the things, or the actions, or the things to get people to do what you want. And we can talk about this in terms of, see, power is it's one of these terms that can become like magic, right? In fact, this is one of the dangers of the concept of power. It has become mystified in terms of this sense of we're magicians, and I either tactile my mental powers of my mind, or magic, right? Magic! I do something, wish, and it happens, right? Well, that's all power. The conceptions of this. This is fantasy, not real. As I'm idea. Magic is merely science, not understood. I share Isaac Asimov's famous line about that. There's no such thing as magic. There are just nature works, and there's rules of nature. There's things. Some of us know things and are able to manipulate nature. Some of us, the modern world, we think we can conquer nature. We can create imaginary things in our mind and use our force to do what we want to do. But the problem is nature is a bitch, and she'll get her way at the end. Nature always wins at the end. There's a famous joke from the in China, communist China, from the 1950s. There was before the Cultural Revolution, during one of the great Leap Forward programs, they were having rice production problems. Rice production, comrade, why are the rice productions are not being? But comrade general, the reason why the rice productions is the rats are eating the rice and the things. Okay, well, I'm going to make a rule. The rule is we're going to put a bounty on rats. We're going to put a something long bounty on every rat given. Next, 2 years later, comrade general, why are the rice numbers still down? In fact, they're increased, the rice numbers are down. Why? But at the same time, the amount of rats being caught are huge. We're getting reports of rats being run. What's going on? Why are we catching so many rats but still having problem with rice being lost? Oh, comrade general, the problem is the peasants are breeding and growing rats because they get more for the rats than for the rice. Okay? Perverse incentives. To understand human, if you see something not working in the world, something's fucked up or really bad, don't assume it's really broken. Assume that this is really the way the incentives are. People are doing it because people are doing it because there's incentives for doing it. In fact, this is one of the things you study advanced mathematics. My God, what is Dobson's paradigm, which is I forget his first name, but Dobson was his pen name is Lewis Carroll. Alice in Wonderland. He was a mathematician, statistical mathematician, advanced mathematician. He was always curious why everything was popular at a faculty meeting at Oxford. Everything that was popular never got succeeded. There was always a significant proportion of the vote of people would want something, but at the end of the day, they would never come out. And he discovered something. It's not people's first choices that will win, but usually their third or fourth option. And not even that. Often people don't choose what they want, but rather what they don't want. Avoid what they don't want. So if they see a choice that they really don't want, they will choose something they don't want to avoid something they really don't want. Okay, you understand that? So therefore, what ends up happening is, and also we have to understand ranked choices. Sometimes you have a situation where you want to do this. I would place this. I really want this. I do that, but I don't really want to do that. Or maybe you see this in sampling polls. You have strongly agree, strongly disagree, and strongly disagree. Right? That's a ranked preferring choice. Well, people behave in terms of that way. So if every choice you have is rated that way, who will be whatever choice or whatever option and variable that can form the majority of the group will win, or the majority or higher will win. In fact, there's a problem in majority win sets. It's very difficult as the percentage. It's a mathematical problem. N number of people, right? As the number of people goes above 1. The percentage of a majority win outcome becomes less than 50% immediately. You understand? And then every n it gets smaller than 50%. So what happens here? Well, that means it becomes more and more difficult to get a majority win set. And how do you get a majority win set? Well, you have to cheat a little bit. This is what is his name? Anthony Downs in his we call the economic theory of democracy, where he lists, it's called Downs' theorem. He argues for 4 characteristics you have to have in order to make a majority win set, a pure majority situation. And he basically argues it's impossible. You have to really get a majority outcome, you have to violate one of these 4 rules. And one of them is you need to arbitrarily limit choices to 2 things. To try to limit choices to no more than 2 things. Because if you have anything more than 2 choices, 2 options, if it's above 2, the likelihood of getting a majority win outcome goes to 0 in the first round. Then you have to have multiple rounds. Look, and we notice this in elections. Because the nature of the Polish electoral system, where you have party lists, you have multiple parties, because you have a list system, large electoral districts with a large number of candidates, and proportional representation, right? With party lists, right? This creates a problem. You won't get. It's a statistical anomaly that you get a majority. One party will have enough to become a majority win party. So the 2 times PIS government got a majority control is not a normal situation. It's an extraordinary situation. What will be ordinary is what? Coalitions. But the problem with coalitions are what?
They can break.
No, worse. The people don't vote on it. Coalitions are secret deals made by the party leaders. The people never approve it. So that's the most undemocratic thing. And in fact, if you're going to be if you're going to have a real democracy, the coalition, there should be a referendum vote on the forming of a coalition, that the people should be allowed to vote whether to give the coalition a vote. In other words, in order to get a vote on the coalition, the society should legitimize it, like the president, or give the president a veto over it. Because technically the only democratically elected person, the only completely democratic elected person who has been elected by the whole nation is the president. So therefore, he is the only one with a legitimate democratic mandate. So should he be like the king who can accept or not accept a majority? He has democratic legitimacy. Yes, again, what does democratic legitimacy mean? This is the nature of political decisions and political structures. How many of you read your own constitution? Handful, right? See, one of the things that I find funny is that Warsaw University's political science department doesn't have mandatory courses on the Polish government. They say they do, but when I look at the textbook and stuff like that, they don't really look at, they will talk about European institutions more times, like the EU, than about the actual governing things. Like, how does a voivode work? What is the nature of what is the workings of political reality of the system? This is what civic education should be. This is the proper role of civic education. Civic education should prepare you to be a citizen in the country that you are. Therefore, you should know your institutions. You should know the structures of how you're doing it and what they mean and how they work it. The problem is, this is happening in America. America used to, up until the 1960s, you could argue that every American kid had civics in high school. That was destroyed by the 1960s and after the Vietnam War. Instead, the smart kids don't go to civics course. The smart kids go to World Civ course. So the most intelligent students usually don't learn about the Constitution, don't learn about their government, they may have to take an AP course. They often will take an advanced placement course on American history, but not, and this will be more social history than a political history. So they'll get very little understanding of their own institutions. In fact, this is even funnier, the more the elite American university you go to, the more likely you become less informed about, after 4 years there, you will become less informed about American civic institutions. You become dumber as in your civics. These have been studies that were done, and many of them have been done, and they're shocking. In fact, getting people, this is a sad thing. It's harder, it's so hard to get into elite Ivy, privileged American schools. It's like you have a better chance of getting a lottery, okay? Getting into Harvard, Yale, one of the principal 10, we call the 10 principal major, not Ivies, but also the principal schools, right? You don't have to do anything. You are already in the 10% of society. You can drop out like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg, and people will offer you, because you are already so smart, that you had to be so smart to get in there, that you can be a dropout and people will offer you millions of dollars. Because you are already been the selection process is such that you are already a part of a merit pool of excellence. Therefore, you don't have to learn. You don't have to get any better. In fact, tests of performance of graduates of Ivy League schools do worse than students who go to state universities. State universities actually, after 4 years of state university, a student will learn something. They will have more knowledge than last. What happens with Ivy Leagues? Of course, yes, most will learn something. But the percentage of people who all of a sudden don't learn anything and leave usually less informed are much higher than you would suspect or would think. Yes? You have a hand question? No, just muscle flexing. I'm tired. We're all tired. We want to go home. Yes, I know that feeling. So these are the concepts here. The questions of these concepts we talked about so far. Citizenship, rules. This is the thing this is where the question of where and what is the place, the problem of political community. In other words, the political place, the place of a place. See, the problem is, okay, how many of you, okay, the problem in the modern world is particularly in a world where you belong to political classes and you have economic classes that have no longer interests, you have interests that transcend your community. Like you work for a Fortune 500 global company. You may be even not work for it, but hell, you may actually be someone who owns stock in it, major stock. Okay, you might be. So where do your loyalties really lie? Your economic interest, right? But at the same time, your economic interests are now global. So what are you a citizen? Are you a citizen of a community? Are you a citizen of a community? Or do you put your economic interests, which are global, and see yourself as the word, cosmopolitan, right? Politan is city, cosmos, world. That's what it means, literally. The world is the city. That you're no longer a citizen of a place. This is a book by an English author called The Everywheres and the Some Places. This is the new political dimension that we're in. This is the politics that we are as we enter the 21st century. We are looking at a world where okay, by the way, you're here. This is even more so. Warsaw University has become more parochial. In other words, who becomes a student of Warsaw University? Warsaw urban elite. 40 years ago, that you were only 20% of the Warsaw University population. 40 years ago, or before, that you'd be no more than 20%. That you'd get people from rural Poland, very smart, intelligent kids from rural Poland or different parts of Poland would be here. And this was going to be the elite, right? The communist elite. They were more representative of Poland than now. You are basically the urban intellectual elite of Warsaw. At least 45-50% of you. The rest are you're the children of the apparatchiks. Warsaw apparatchiks and the bureaucracies. You're parochial. But you all think that you are going to be what? The cosmopolitans. You are the elite. You are the ruling elite. You will be the people who get the ministry jobs at the ministries or the entities. Or if your family is connected well enough to certain people, you may get even a job at KPMG or one of the big firms, or consulting firms. Okay? So this is the danger of the political reality of that sense. Are you a citizen? Are you any longer a citizen who has anything in common with the rest of the country? To what degree, if you don't share, what is common? What do you share with them? A language? A past? But little else? Do you see them as fellow citizens? Or do you see them as another? This is the nature of all politics. This happens in the United States. The world is becoming more partisanized. We no longer see each other as fellow citizens, fellow people in this, and therefore this. This is the. Now, in our last time together before we die. No, we have plenty of time. We have what? We leave at 14:45, correct? Oh, I thought we had less time. I was looking at my thing and saying, I've got 10 minutes, but I got plenty of time. Little bit of political anthropology here. First of all, we're dealing with humanity, how human evolves. Yes, we all start from Africa. About 60,000 years ago. This is 60, 70, maybe 80. We don't know exactly when humanity, but we know we left there around 70, 80, maybe 90. And maybe, because we all have common ancestors, genetically. What happened? We spread into different areas. Why? Food. Also, because too many people competing for same. Africa is the greatest place. Climate-wise? Climate-wise? Come on. You have to really. First of all, there's all this food easily available from what? Looking around, foraging. All these biodiversity, this huge biodiversity. But there's also a lot of predators. So what happens? Some people, and also the discovery of hunting and eating meat that occurred, right? Remember, go watch. Watch the first few minutes of 2001: The Space Odyssey. Kubrick's famous 2001: The Space Odyssey, for the chimpanzee beginning of humanity. Okay, the origins, the first of fathering. It's a good movie to kind of understand the origins of early development. And there's that moment after he kills the other ape, right? And he throws the bone up into space. And what happens to that bone? The instrument of murder and warfare goes into space, and it turns into a satellite, which is it's basically a nuclear satellite, which is gonna that clock positions that these are nuclear warheads positioned that the global powers are going to have over each other to basically fight to wage their war. So that the image that he does there, it purposefully, that man's ability to murder and wage war transforms. That starts with the club, that then turns into the bone that's thrown into the air, then it becomes the satellite. Right? But this idea of our nature of our origins as hominids, and also as that became into human beings as we know it. We foraged, we diversed, we went to find food, we fled from each other. Because that is the big motive, fear. You can either fight or flight. And by the way, if the other guys are stronger than you what do? You flee, or die, right? So they went off to find other food. The weaker usually went off. But then what happened? They went to new climates and they adapted. And they either adapted or died. And they often went to colder climates. Then what happened? Well, ironically, the people who went to cold climates, they had to really adapt or die, and therefore they became stronger, tougher, had to work harder for less. Whereas if you're in Africa, you don't have to work hard at all. In fact, if you work hard too much, what happens to you? The heat will overtake you in your bodies. Try working in a place like sub-Sahara Africa. Not even sub-Sahara, but even the jungle. Or go to Brazil, the Brazilian jungle sometime, and try to do a lot of work and see how long you'll do it last before you're completely exhausted and you collapse of health exhaustion. Okay? You don't get the habits. Therefore, human nature evolves in regional, this leads to what we call human biodiversity. Therefore, if you take the same biological virus, you put in different environments, it'll become different things. This is what we call, what is it called? Oh, come on, I know the word is going to drive me crazy. Subspeciation, right? The subspeciation. The same thing would happen to the human species. We went into different environments. The amount of sun and thing changed our skin colors. Because of this, right? The amount of we ended up adapting and changing things. We ended up acclimating to the environments, and our habits and our biologies changed because of it. Our diets changed. Come on. What can Europeans do that most Asian populations can't do? What can European populations digest or process more effectively, and most Asian populations cannot? What? Well, lactose is one thing, right? But what is the other thing? Alcohol. Why did Europeans develop the production of alcohol, the ability to proceed alcohol? Okay, how much you make alcohol? You take you make pure barley. Okay, you have barley or grain. You crop it. How long will the barley last? Even if you bake it, right? You get more. You eat the barley, right? How much barley you need to eat in order to get 1,000 calories? There's a famous Dürer picture of the peasant with the big fat peasant with the big bag of things and eating while moving his plot, right? If you're eating barley or grain, you would be eating all day to get the necessary calories in order to do work, do 1,600 calories. So what do? We bake bread, right? But how long bread lasts?
2 days.
Yeah, then they make hardtack. You ever had hardtack? You make bread and you make it hardtack, and this lasts 10 months, 6 months. But you ever ate hardtack? Hardtack is this solid piece of blood. Go watch a YouTube video and look about hardtack. This is what they used to use in the 1880s, 1800s. This is what soldiers ate, this piece of bread that was like a rock, okay? And they would put it with grease, and they would just put it in water and they'd eat it, okay? Hardtack. Okay? This is what people ate. But even that is not that, you have to eat a lot of it to get the even amount of calories needed. Alcohol. How long does alcohol survive in a bottle? Long time. So you have a good grain, you turn it into alcohol, methyl alcohol. Alcohol calories, man. 1 glass. How many calories in 1 glass? So you drink 5 or 6 glasses and you eat enough. You've just had enough calories to do your workload. You don't have to eat as much. But then what happened? You had to develop in order for you to I have seen Chinese and Japanese business clients when they get drunk. It's very dangerous. So what happens here about this is that, you had to, being able to process alcohol the way we do allows us to be able to handle the alcohol in order to what? To, benefit from it. And that was passed on. This is evolution. So we had the rise of the hunter-gatherers. That is the origin. That is the first moment of human development. The hunter-gatherers. But hunter-gatherer communities are very small. And anyone who tells you they were millions of American Indians in North America is full of shit. Why? Hunter-gatherers mean they have to have animals. A hunter-gatherer community does not farm. They gather the food. They might do may do some cultivating of what we call quick crops. But they're usually at the side of their tent, and they're usually their tent for no more than 2 months. So it's kind of like herbs and things that grow fast. Most of what they will do is they will take roots from one place and then go to the next place, put the roots in there, to really certain movable crops that can be even grow, that they grow within a 3-month, 4-month time period, and they can grow even in the wintertime if you keep the ground near them warm and give it some water or some fertilization. You can grow it like this. Okay? There is some cultivation, but there's not real progressive land cultivation. So what happens? Population density is to have basically a group of 150, 200. Most tribes, the most you could have is around, effectively, in the same group, no more than 300 to 400. And that would require 300 to 400 square miles of fording. And if you had two groups in that area, they couldn't survive. So that you'd have to have over let's say 1,000 cubic square miles of territory. You could at best have 3 to 4 groups that would have to take certain paths. Otherwise, if they went together, they would fight each other. They would be competing for the same ground area. They would end up killing the food and livestock that they would be competing for. So the North American tribes were never huge. They were very small structures. They migrated with the food. It's only in South America do you have tribes that developed farming. The Southwest Indians, the Indians in the Southwest, they championed rice and beans. And in Central and in South America, and particularly in the hillland areas of what we call, they formed because of the mountainous areas where it was very difficult to going hunter-gathering, going around. It was just not possible. So they immediately cultivated land and developed land. That's in the creation of the Incas, the Mayan, and then Incas, right? Point to that. Cultivation, agricultural development. With the rise of agricultural, now that's the third stage. The next stage, we know this from the herding. In other words, they start herding animals. Now, the hunter-gatherers and among the they didn't breed them. The North American Indians weren't hunter-gatherers. I mean, they were hunter-gatherers. They weren't breeders. They were, even though they followed the animals, they didn't breed them. This is not the case, let's say, herdsmen in North Africa or in Middle East or in Asia or in some parts of Peru and down there. What they do is they breed the animals. They control the animals. They herd and live off the animals, like goats, pigs. They herd and they live off the animals. They move from one land area to another area as the natural feed for the food. So is it the rise of cattle in North America with the Anglos, when they brought the cattle. The Spanish and the English brought the cattle raising, professional cattle raising, and used the plains of North America, from Mexico all the way to North America, as the mechanism. The plains, the Great Plains, allowed to use the free grain and the food to move your cattle and then slaughter your cattle and sell it and make money from it. This is how. You must be all watched Yellowstone, right? And those of you who do this, come on. So therefore, that's the herders, the rise. That's the second level of this herding animals, take livestock. And by the way, this is where lactose, the ability to produce milk for human consumption. And it happened when they moved from the Middle East. It was the moment when they went in the desert in the Middle East. It was they were no longer hunter-gathering, they were herders. Go look at the Arab populations or the North African populations, and you see the role of herding and herding crops. Goats, sheep. That spreads into Europe. It is only when they go into more stabilized crops, then they develop agriculture. And that's the third level, the agricultural. It is with the agricultural revolution you then get what we call the early points of civilization. That before you have tribal relationships. Tribal realities are always kin-based relationships. Family upon family, kin group. Your cousins, third cousins, fourth cousins. Maybe one tribe will know another tribe. And if the tribe grows too big, what will happen? That the tribe will split into two different groups. Come on, that's why the origin of Slavic languages. You were one people at one time, who then went into different regions, and what happened? Language is a product of language is like a biological function. It acts like a virus. You take a language and you put it in different environments. If it's not replicating every day, because every day you talk to each other, you're told. But then if you're not if the cells aren't communicating, what happens? You differentiate. And just remember, at this time, 20 miles, if you weren't going back and walking 20 miles was not a reality. Maybe you go once a month, you'd have to walk over there. And people, you don't really get using animals for horses around to about these 6,000, 3,000. There's no evidence of saddles or things like that, or harnesses until around 1,000. We see evidence from the anthropologists about that. So, what is that moment, a revolutionary moment? It's with the agricultural revolution you can have larger populations. Once you start farming land, what happens? Human cultivating of land produces more return than nature itself produces. The earlier, it's like 25-fold. What nature just leaves out there, you take the same, go watch this. Go look at tree cultivation of commercial tree areas. Go to a commercial tree lot for trees that are made to basically grow, and notice how many trees are right next to each other, and why they can grow so tall. But in nature, you couldn't get that same thing. Nature, if you try to grow trees as much close to each other like that, and let nature by itself, it wouldn't happen. You would have some trees that are big, some will be small, some will kill each other out. But the commercial train, by use of science and the use of kind of human techniques, you can grow trees huge. But they can be cut down quickly. They grow quicker, and you can cut them down and use them commercially. This is the nature of human cultivation. By the way, this is where the word culture comes from. Your culture studies majors, culture finds its origins in the word to cultivate, to grow, to develop. It is the agricultural and farming societies that begin to allow for large-scale populations. Because in herder societies, you're still tribal. You can't grow too big. Food will limit you. The reality of being able to feed yourself and the adaptation to the environment you are in limits you greatly. You can't grow any bigger. Nature wins. People starve. Too many people? What do? Well, for the sake of the tribe, you jettison. So the widows, go look at real Indians. I know we love to romanticize Indians, but Indians are not the wonderful people. Tribal people are not the wonderful, caring, utopian people they are. They are sometimes the children. If your father or the leader of your family died, and there's if there's no one warrior or leader person who needs a new wife. They may keep the male children as warriors, but the girl children and the women will be what? Kicked out. That is a tribal, primitive life in tribal life. It's kin-based, survival-based, all about what? The group survival, the group activities, the group. The first, the hunter-gatherer, the first entity is the band, right? And then the tribe emerges out of the band. And the tribe becomes the band is the technique by which the band will be the warriors and the hunters who will get the things. They will be the leaders ultimately of the thing. This is why Thurston Veblen in his classic book, The Theory of Leisure Class, talks about the origins of to understand capitalist society and the nature of the capitalist class. You have to go. He says that you look back to the ancient hunter-gatherers. That the hunter-gatherer society divided the society into male and female. And then it did what? Warriors non-warriors, aristocrats, peasants, capitalists, workers. That's how the evolution. Now, this is Veblen's account of this, counter Marx. He argues that it comes from that class division and division of society emerges from the natural past, but that's no longer realistic. We just maintain these traditions in that sense. So, what about the agricultural society? This allows for larger scale structures. Empires. Tribe, nation. Empires are what? Empires is one tribe who conquers a whole bunch of tribes and can hold together by force. We'll talk about what are empires. They're different. Empires are very important because they give us culture or civilization, like language, organized religion. The next major step of human development is commercial society. Commerce, trade. This is going to be large. In other words, the size of community, every stage, the hunter-gatherer society is small. It's going to be that's the first scale. That is the large. That is your earliest, and that's going to be very limited in their size potential. The shepherds and herdsmen can have a little larger than hunter-gatherers. They can feed more. The group has more means to feed. In other words, the hunter is relying on luck and chance to finding an animal. The shepherd and the herder has the animals and breeding them. He's controlling his product. You understand? So therefore, he has more resources at hand. Again, this is important. Resources, the means to live. So, agricultural society is about what? Growing it from the ground, growing it bigger. Commercial society is all about trading. So, it is only in large-scale commercial society can you have mass society. You can only have nations because of commerce. Nations, large nations, are only possible, or global structures are only possible because of commerce and trade, hold them together. And that's the last criteria there for that. Now, we talked about these units, right? The family, mother, child, parent, grandparent, things like that. The band. The village is something permanent. Maybe in herder societies, they're villages, but there may be temporary villages. Herders tend to be nomadic. So only when you have, it's only with the family of this. Now clans usually are products of family connections, right? Clans and like this, extended kin group situations. These can occur in hunter-gatherers, herders, and agricultural, but agricultural tends to become more specific village-oriented or city-oriented, right? Then the tribe is an extension of the tribe. This is larger, the people, or or we term the nation. These are the Greek word is the ethnoi. The ethnic. We get the word ethnic from it. These are the people, like you Russians, Poles, Czechs, Slovaks, maybe Slovenes, maybe Croats, Serbs, are technically at one time all ethnically tied by genetics. About 5,000 years ago, 3,000 to 5,000 years ago. Then the big move in 3 in Eastern, and then Southern, the big split North, South, Mid, South. Then the 3, then the North, the North, Mid, and then South, right? Then they broke up even, right? This is the way that an empire is the last criteria. Now, one of the essays that we're looking at is Mansfield, How to Understand Politics. Politics is about who is to be the most important, or who should rule. This is the political question. Who should rule? Who should rule us? And the question of who should rule us asks us, why should they rule us, right? What legitimates? But this question is not what contemporary political science focuses on. Rather, it avoids this question altogether. This is the problem of modern political science. We don't want to avoid ruling. We look at just relationships. Today, political inspired is inspired by Harold Laski's 1936 book, Politics, Who Gets What, When, and How. It focuses on who gets what. It's about what? Economics. Who gets what, when, and how they get it. It focuses on what people want, not who rules and why they rule. So that's the big difference. The older tradition focused on ruling, modern society focused on getting. This is the difference between a commercial society and a commercial society. A commercial society focuses on the getting and wanting. The agricultural world is still focused on, it's concerned about who's ruling us. But should you care who rules you? Forgetting about who rules, that's important. Mansfield in his piece looks at what motivates people to seek and rule over each other. Ambition, does it come from? Now, Mansfield and most people who do this will look into the Greeks, because Plato and Aristotle and those people talked about a thing called thumos, spiritedness, right? Spiritedness is what motivates us to act. Anger, ambition. Why do we have ambition? Why do we want to rule each other? This is within us. Every one of us has different, but we don't have the same amount. It's tied to testosterone, though, but we know the chemical. Everyone, male and female, has testosterone levels of testosterone. We have all these chemicals in us. Testosterone is about what? The chemical about what? Anger, aggression, energy. The other one about feelings. What is the chemical tied to emotions and feelings? Estrogen. What is the chemical tied to being happy and enjoyment? Serotonin. What about overcoming pain? That you're in pain, but you get the energy to overcome pain. What is that? Endorphins, right? We have all these chemicals in us that motivate us, that we stimulate us, that to get us to do things. And that shapes our character. We have character. Permanent habits and traits. Now, some people have stronger, higher estrogen levels. Some people have higher testosterone levels. Yes, men will tend to have more higher testosterone and women like this, but there are women with high rates, not as high as men, but higher than most women. And then there's men who have higher rates of estrogen than most other men, but not as much as women, right? There are these chemical situations of variation within the group. And the different times of activity. So therefore, it's the spirited aspect that tells us that this is the spirited and animated part of the soul that desires peoples and animals to act. In other words, no desire, no action. Reason is merely a tool to aid desire, to maximize desire in that sense. And that's where we end up. We're at the end of our class. We have 2 minutes left, but I'm going to stop here. So we'll come next time. If you still want to do the course, you have the last class you want to escape. Too much reading. Oh no. Teacher says unpopular things. Oh no. So please have a good day. Take care. Bye.